Welcome to 1623 Studios for the Gloucester Municipal Election Candidates Forum. The municipal election will be held on Tuesday, November 2nd. For this forum, 1623 Studios invited the candidates to record a statement of up to 4 minutes. Their statements are shown unedited and in the order that they appear on the ballot. For the 2021 election, there are 8 candidates vying for 6 school committee seats. The candidates for school committee are Incumbent Samantha Verga Wiessen, Incumbent Laura Wiessen, William Melvin Jr., Incumbent Melissa Joy Teixeira Prince, Keith Mineo, Thomas Stein, Incumbent Kathleen Clancy, and Richard Roberts Jr. Here now is candidate number 1, Samantha Verga Wiessen.
I'm Samantha Verga Wiessen, and I've been on the Gloucester School Committee since January 2020. I'm a former Gloucester Public School student, a working mother, and a therapist who cares deeply about the well-being of Gloucester students and families. As a trained social worker, I believe I bring a critical perspective to the school committee by advocating for student mental health and a trauma-informed approach. Schools serve as a crucial support system for all students, and particularly for students who have experienced trauma. School leaders and staff need considerable training to help identify and understand how a student's history can and will impact their behavior and ability to learn. All students deserve to consistently feel safe, supported, and understood in our public schools. I know this because in my 10 years as a social worker, I've seen the difference it can make. The COVID-19 pandemic has made this trauma-informed approach to education even more important, as children, adolescents, and families have had to make considerable changes to their normal routines throughout the last year and a half. While as a community we have rightly directed our attention to keeping schools open safely during the pandemic, it is time now to move forward and tackle our other goals. We must expand our vision again, of course doing so with the continued necessary safety precautions. As a district, I believe we need to work to better understand what keeps students from attending school consistently so that we can address chronic absenteeism across the district. We need to shift outdated and false narratives about Gloucester Public Schools by engaging the community early and often about the great work and many opportunities happening here. And finally, we need to improve academic achievement by continuing to reduce barriers to engagement for all learners. I also know that it is time now to reset and repair. Our community has been hurting these last 2 years, and it's time to acknowledge that hurt while also acknowledging all of the ways that we have thrived. What have we learned about new ways we can support each other? What have we learned about our youth, what our youth really need? How are we listening, and where can we provide youth with critical support? I know we have the answers to these questions, especially when we make a point to collaboratively work with teachers, staff, families, and community organizations. I've been trained to listen well, negotiate hard conversations with compassion, and find creative solutions that work for our whole community. As a school committee member, my goal has been and will continue to be building effective and respectful communication channels and collaboration between school committee members, school administration, current and future parents, teachers, city departments, and our larger community. Thank you for your time and your care for Gloucester Public Schools and for taking a moment to learn more about the candidates. I would be sincerely honored to have your vote again for Gloucester School Committee. Thank you.
That was candidate number 1, Samantha Verga Wiessen. Here now is candidate number 2, Laura Wiessen.
Hi, my name is Laura Wiessen, and I'm running for re-election to the Gloucester School Committee. I'm just completing my first 2-year term, and it's been a bit of a baptism by fire. I'm so grateful to have been a member of the committee as we hired a new superintendent and worked to open schools during a global pandemic. Gloucester became a model for how to open schools safely, and I'm so proud of the team of teachers, administrators, staff, nurses, students, and families that worked to keep us safely in school for the entire year. I am currently Secretary of the School Committee and Chair of the Ad Hoc Communications Subcommittee, a new committee I spearheaded to improve communications among the school committee, the Gloucester Schools family, and the wider community. Our newly established Facebook group has more than 650 members and regularly shares information about school issues, events, and upcoming meetings. An interesting silver lining of the pandemic is the way Zoom has allowed many more community members to attend and participate in our meetings. Even something as simple as creating an email address to reach all school committee members at once, Gloucester School Committee at gloucesterschools.com, has created a new pathway for you to reach us with your questions, comments, and concerns. I continue to believe that good communication and access to information is essential to strengthening our schools. We've started the work, but there's much more to do. To tell you a little bit about myself, my family has lived in Gloucester for more than a decade now, and we have 2 children happily attending Beeman Memorial Elementary School. Before moving to Gloucester, I spent many years working as a journalist and television news producer. As a producer, I asked questions, listened to different voices, dug through piles of information for the relevant facts, managed budgets, and communicated clearly and creatively about issues from science to politics. During this term, I've used these skills to help steer our district through a global pandemic and hire a new superintendent while maintaining a focus on capital projects, innovative programming, and supporting our most vulnerable students and families. And I've learned from our teachers and administrators how best to allocate our limited financial resources to bolster our students' educational and social-emotional growth. There's still so much to do to keep building Gloucester schools. Among my goals this term will be to continue to improve communication within and beyond the Gloucester Schools family, to ensure strategic use of federal grant funding to support our students' social-emotional health and educational progress, to support school improvement plans and CVTE expansion at O'Malley Innovation Middle School and Gloucester High, and to investigate fiscally responsible ways to strengthen our schools, including combating absenteeism. We have a vibrant student body, committed families and staff, and talented teachers ready to teach and to innovate. We're already incorporating what we've learned this past year about new ways to teach and learn. I'm eager to continue contributing to the success of Gloucester schools and Gloucester students. Please vote for me on November 2nd. Thank you.
That was candidate number 2, Laura Wiessen. Here now is candidate number 3, William Melvin Jr.
Greetings. My name is Bill Melvin, and I am a candidate for a seat on the Gloucester School Committee this November. For those who don't know me, please allow me to introduce myself. I was born and raised in Manchester, and I'm a graduate of the Manchester Public School System. Upon graduation, I entered the United States Army, where I served proudly and honorably. Since leaving the Army, I've spent over 30 years in the industrial manufacturing world. I am a 28-year resident of Gloucester and still live in the same house on Western Ave that my wife Beth Ann and I were fortunate enough to have purchased shortly after being married. We are the parents of 3 proud graduates of the Gloucester Public School System. Upon graduation from high school, our 2 oldest children, Marley and Jackson, went on to graduate from college, on time and with degrees. Our youngest, Ruby, is still in college, and we fully anticipate her doing the same. Before I talk about a few things that are important to me as a candidate, I'd like to relay to you a quick story about our first experience at Gloucester High School. When Marley entered GHS, we attended the annual freshman orientation night. At the time, Bill Goodwin was the principal. Mr. Goodwin stood up and told us about the many wonderful programs that were available to the incoming students, and I was genuinely impressed. But then he said something that has stuck with me since that night. He suggested to all those present that you could get to where you wanted to go from the Gloucester Public Schools. That statement proved true and remained true to this day. Our children and a countless number of their friends were able to get to where they wanted to go from the Gloucester Public Schools, whether that be through furthering their education, serving in the armed forces, or finding a fulfilling profession right out of high school. In other words, they became successful young adults. My candidacy today is based on 4 principles that I believe are paramount to any educational undertaking. They are as follows. Responsibility. All of us involved with the schools have a daily responsibility to offer the students of Gloucester a quality education. Also on that list are us as parents. My experience showed me that it helped to take a proactive, engaged, and collaborative stance with regards to my own children's education. It's okay to be interested, involved, and encouraging, both with your children and those charged with educating them. Opportunity. It's imperative that each child, regardless of their educational standing or abilities, be given the opportunity to reach their full potential. Failure to see this through is simply not an acceptable model for today's public education experience. We must ensure that every student leaves here knowing that opportunity is the key to their success. Impact. Our world today is searching for impactful, discerning individuals that are of high character and that are willing to put their own agenda aside and invest in our young people. There is no better or bigger stage for this to play out than the classrooms and athletic fields of the public schools of our great nation, and specifically our great city. Enthusiasm. I don't think I could be a bigger cheerleader for the many wonderful things happening throughout our schools. I also don't happen to be someone who sees the schools through rose-colored glasses. I believe there is always room for improvement and change in the way education is delivered, especially in a post-COVID world. I promise you that I'll work diligently to be the one that gets on with the business of the day, helping to create a framework to educate our children so that we can all proclaim you can get to where you want to go from the Gloucester Public Schools. Thank you very much, and I'd appreciate your support and vote on November 2nd.
That was candidate number 3, William Melvin Jr. Candidate number 4, Melissa Joy Teixeira Prince, unfortunately could not participate in this forum. Here now is candidate number 5, Keith Mineo.
Hi, my name is Keith Mineo, and with your support, I will be the next school committee member for Gloucester Public Schools. After 20 years being away, I brought my family back to Gloucester because it's a great place to be a kid. My son was just entering kindergarten at the time, and now it's my daughter's turn. And I'm pleased to know that she actually has a teacher that is a close personal friend of ours, and only in Gloucester. Before moving back, I spent 2 years as assistant teacher at my kids' preschool. There I served as a fellow co-op parent for the cooperative as a school purchaser. By popular demand, I was asked to serve a second term, and I did very well with that. And also worked at the nonprofit music venue in California as well. And part of our mission was the education of the future generations about traditional music. We had classes and workshops. So I find the arts very close and dear to me and important for the kids as well. As an older parent, one of my greatest concerns is, will my children be ready for when I'm not around to hold their hand? The greatest thing we can teach our children is not what to think, but how to think. To have our kids come up with their own answers to their very unique questions. We teach our children how to fish. We don't give them a fish. In many ways, it takes a village, but we must not sideline a parent's right to raise their own with the morals they deem true. We learn from MLK not to dwell upon appearances, but to judge each other by our deeds and internal moral character. I'm running for school committee to make sure that all parents have a say in the education of our children. I want to be the voice of all concerned parents. I view my position on the school committee to be as a board member overseeing our greatest stock, our children. We are all shareholders, parents and empty nesters alike. Even those without children have an interest in the future of the education of our kids, because they'll be the future community members that support them. From my experience in the school system, I feel that it's what you make of it. It's the effort that you put into it. I struggled in the beginning, but found that I was very interested in the advanced placement courses, especially the biology class. I fought my counselor to get into that class, despite their concerns that I wouldn't be able to make it. I did very well, and even placed out of Bio 101 in college. I was quite proud of myself. And I think every student should have that right to speak up and to be heard. I want to see consistency through all grade levels, with advanced placement courses going forward and electives that prepare them for the future. I feel that there's an opportunity to have mentors from our community to help educate our kids with workshops and extracurricular activities. I feel that going forward, Rockport and Gloucester can have a collaborative together and bring our unique talents together. Rockport with their arts, Gloucester with AP courses and the vocational programs that have done so well for our community. A vote for me is to have your vote reflected, your voice reflected. A vote for me is if you feel that you need to have accountability in your elective officials. A vote for me is a vote for fostering free-thinking children for our future. Thank you.
That was candidate number 5, Keith Mineo. Here now is candidate number 6, Thomas Stein.
Hello, My name is Tom Stein, and I've been a full-time resident of Cape Ann for the past 13 years. I have a 3-year-old daughter enrolled in the Gloucester schools, and we're happy with how she's being taught. The teachers and staff at Gloucester Public Schools made my family feel welcome and appreciated. I want to thank them, and I want to give back, which is why I'm running for the school committee this term. I'm a lifelong educator in higher ed, professor at Berklee College of Music in Boston, and a professional musician. I own a small education business in Gloucester where I teach music to students in person and remotely from my home studio. I'm also a college admissions consultant and a Fulbright specialist for the U.S. State Department, where I'm privileged to work as a civilian diplomat organizing and leading groups to perform American music in countries overseas. I've written a widely used textbook on music industry education, published on Business Expert Press, an affiliate of Harvard Business Press. I've done a lot in my international career with music and education. Now I want to contribute locally. I grew up in Ithaca, New York. Both my parents were Cornell deans, and my dad was a professor of urban and regional planning. He was a city councilman and the chair of the Tompkins County Board. I've been around education my entire life, and I'm a planner like my dad. I had a good education from public schools, which allowed me to do well in life. When I first came to Gloucester, I heard some negative things about the schools here, and that concerned me. I wanted to do something about it, but I wasn't sure what. As I was putting my daughter in school, I called up some of the city council folks, and they suggested I run for the school committee. After all, I'm a teacher and a college administrator. I know something about teaching and learning, and I know about management, facilities, unions, planning, and budgets. Working together with the other committee members, the mayor, the city council, and the superintendent, we can improve how Gloucester schools serve students and families. I want Gloucester to be the best place for everyone, including families, children, teachers, and the school support staff, who play such an important role in educating our students while giving taxpayers value for their hard-earned dollars. I'm a homeowner and I'm a taxpayer too. I want residents to get the most bang for their buck when it comes to the schools, and I want Gloucester to be the kind of community where families with kids want to come and live and stay. We're doing many things right in Gloucester, but we need to keep our eye on the ball, especially when it comes to planning and facilities and budgets. As a member of your school board, I will pay close attention to the planning so that we can avoid costly mistakes and bring the most value to taxpayers. The quality of the schools affects property values and the quality of life for everyone in Gloucester. People understand that teaching our kids determines the kind of future we all will face. It's a community effort. I learned a lot talking to residents about their concerns with the schools and their taxes, and I can empathize with everyone who went out of their way to share their concerns with me. Taxpayers have a right to demand results. I will analyze and watch the budget closely so that our limited resources will go where they are most needed, to providing quality instruction to students in facilities conducive to learning. It's about getting bang for the buck and preparing our kids for meaningful, productive, happy lives in society. I can't think of anything more important than this, and that's why I want to work to contribute, and it's why I'm running. We need our community on board with building up and maintaining quality teaching and learning in our schools at a manageable and reasonable cost. This is my reason for running, and I'd like to ask for your vote on Election Day. Thank you very much.
That was candidate number 6, Thomas Stein. Here now is candidate number 7, Kathleen Clancy.
Hello, my name is Kathy Clancy, and I'm excited to be running for re-election to a 7th term on the school committee. My son Neville is a senior at Gloucester High School, and he's had a wonderful experience in Gloucester Public Schools since kindergarten. It's hard to believe he's actually a senior. Gloucester schools have made incredible progress during my 12-year tenure. Student achievement is up and continues to climb. Supports for students and families have increased. Facilities have been vastly improved, and new curriculum and exciting opportunities are in place across the district for all students. This past year and a half has been especially challenging, but also very rewarding, as Gloucester students were in school every day and are off to a good start this year. Not only is it important for each student educationally, but also socially, as they have connections to classmates and trusted adults on a daily basis. Our dedicated superintendent, who was hired during the beginning of COVID, God bless him, and his team, and our teachers and staff City administration and community has been amazing in terms of supporting our children during this time. Our schools are the heart of our community, and I believe every milestone of our children's education should be supported and celebrated by us. If you have the opportunity, please go see them in their theater performances, musicals, athletic fields, and on the courts. And please cheer them on, because nothing is better appreciated than having other people validate their successes and their effort. Let me tell you a little more about me. I've been dedicated to public education in Gloucester for a long time. I've been an active volunteer of the Gloucester Education Foundation since my son was 3.5 years old. I have an undergraduate degree in accounting and an MBA in finance. I worked in finance for over 20 years, where I was responsible for finance, strategic planning, and operational management. I believe this is a strength that I bring to the committee. I have been the chair of the Building and Finance Subcommittee for most of my tenure, where my background has been essential in evaluating initiatives and budget priorities with educational goals in mind. I've served as vice chair of the committee for 4 years during my tenure, and I currently serve on the East Gloucester Veterans Building Committee and also served on the West Parish Building Committee. I am committed to continuous improvement through sound short and long-term planning. I'm so proud of what our teachers and district is accomplishing, and I'm committed to continuing this progress as we navigate the evolving challenges ahead, because there's always more work to be done. My goal has always been for every child in Gloucester to receive an excellent education with diverse opportunities that inspires them to love learning and launches them into a successful future. This is what I'm passionate about, and I would be honored to serve on the school committee again. I ask for your vote on November 2nd and hope you will encourage your friends and family to join you. Thank you, 1623 Studios, for hosting this candidate forum and giving me the opportunity to speak to Gloucester residents. And thank you to all of you for listening.
That was candidate number 7, Kathleen Clancy. Here now is candidate number 8, Richard Roberts Jr.
Hi, my name is Richard John Roberts Jr., and I have been a Gloucester native for 36 years. I am a product of the Gloucester public school system, and after graduating from Gloucester High School in 2003, I entered the workforce. I was married in 2009 to my wife, Maria, and we have 2 beautiful girls, Savannah and Isabella, who both attend the Gloucester public school system. I met with the mother of a middle schooler, and her story was not one of the happiness and success, but one of the frustration ones. During this pandemic, students and teachers alike are frustrated with the lack of empathy that has been shown. From students not participating in class, to teachers burned out from looking at letters on a screen. It has been a rough year and a half. However, it will take all of us to get our children back to where they need to be. Another parent I spoke to about her child being bullied in school, I have absolutely no toleration for bullying. School should be a safe place for children to learn and teachers to educate, not for threats, intimidations, or attacks. I strongly urge that the school address this now before it becomes a bigger issue and utilize all options, including, if necessary, law enforcement. I have talked to others who feel that they have been disenfranchised by the school system. Students don't want to raise their hands for fear of giving the wrong answers and may be made fun of in class. Again, schools need to be that place of safety for not only bodily and emotional harm, but also intellectual harm. How do we change this? What is the answer? I understand that the state and U.S. Department of Education aren't looking at graduation rates or test scores as intensely during this pandemic, but we cannot ignore these numbers. According to U.S. News and World Report article, Gloucester High Schools ranked 263 out of 317 schools in the Commonwealth. Manchester and Rockport are both in the top 50. Why not our high school? Gloucester's elementary and middle schools perform in the middle. What can we do to fix this? If our schools don't perform, we cannot graduate productive citizens into this world. They can't go to college, join the military, or get the job of their dreams. According to Public School Review, Gloucester school system has a graduation rate of 86%. The state is at 93%. That puts Gloucester in the bottom 50. Other indicators, according to the Neighborhood Scout website, that ranked Gloucester schools put reading and writing plus math scores in the bottom 47%, firmly bottom 50. We as a community must do better. We have to. I want to be that change. I pledge to work tirelessly to make sure that the Gloucester school system is synonymous with the great schools just not in the Commonwealth, but in this great nation. I will work to ensure our schools are safe from violence, despair, and loneliness. I will work to ensure our teachers always have the tools they need to help our children succeed. We will achieve what is great. This is a time for our children, and it is our job to help them reach for the stars. My name is Richard J. Roberts, Jr., and I want to be your next school committee member. Please join me, and together we will succeed for our children and for our future. Thank you. May God bless you, our children, the city of Gloucester, and the United States of America. Thank you.
That was candidate number 8, Richard Roberts, Jr. This concludes 1623 Studios Municipal Election Candidates Forum. A reminder that on November 2nd, the polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. The deadline to register to vote or make changes to your voter registration for the municipal election is Wednesday, October 13th at 8 p.m. One note for Ward 1 Precinct 2 residents who normally vote at Veterans Memorial School. Due to the demolition of the school, your precinct polling station has been moved to the new YMCA facility at Gloucester Crossing. The City of Gloucester is also accepting vote-by-mail and absentee ballot applications for all 2021 elections via email, fax, and regular mail. The deadline to submit an absentee ballot or vote-by-mail application for the 2021 election is Wednesday, October 27th at 5 p.m. The deadline for absentee ballot in-office voting is Monday, November 1st at noon. To download the absentee ballot or vote-by-mail application, go to gloucester-ma.gov/337/elections. Lastly, poll workers are always needed and paid from $170 to $225 depending on the position for the day. If any resident is interested in being a poll worker, send your inquiry to elections@gloucester-ma.gov or schedule an appointment at the city clerk's office and apply by calling 978-281-9720, number 2. I'm Kory Curcuru for 1623 Studios. You can watch live coverage of this year's debates and elections on Channel 12 and our social media outlets. For more news on this fall's elections, please sign up for our newsletter at 1623studios.org. Thanks for watching, and thank you to the candidates and city officials for your public service.